Good morning, students. I hope that all of you are doing very, very good. Students, as you already know that we had started a chapter Rural Life and Society of History yesterday, right? And we are learning about different land revenue settlements introduced by British in India to collect land revenue from farmers in different places in different regions, right? So there were three major land revenue settlements, and one was permanent settlement, which we have already done, right? Now we are going to start the next settlements, Ryotwadi and Mehalwadi, right? Let's start the Ryotwadi system. So Ryotwadi system of land revenue was introduced in Madras Presidency by Thomas Munro during 1820 to 27. But students, I am telling you one thing. Actually, the Ryotwadi system, this system was tried on a small scale by Captain Alexander in some of areas that were won by the company, the English East India Company from Tipu Sultan. And later on, this system was developed by Thomas Munro, first in Madras Presidency and then in Bombay Presidency also, right? So we'll be writing that the system was introduced by Thomas Munro, right? And year is 1820 to 27, right? So Ryotwadi system. So Ryot means cultivators, farmers, peasants, right? So the Ryotwadi system, a settlement directly with the Ryot, was adopted mainly due to two reasons. Number one, that there were no zamindars or landlords or any other intermediaries with whom the settlement could be carried out, right? So there were no landlord in Madras presidency, right? And it produced more revenue than any other system. So revenue was forced as one third of gross produce. So if farmers are producing 100%, so obviously one third, around 33%, would be given to British as tax, land revenue, right? So here the owner of the land were Ryot. It means farmer, right? So cultivator, or you can say that farmer, they remained the owner of land as long as they paid the land revenue, right? And the land revenue, it was revised after every 20 or 30 years. And you know what is the special thing, what is a good thing about this settlement? That revenue was fixed according to fertility of the soil. It means if the soil, the land is more fertile, the peasants, they have to give more revenue, and the less fertile land, then if farmer is having less fertile land, then less revenue will be paid. So this was a good thing about this settlement, that revenue was decided, or you can say fixed, according to fertility of the soil. So the system was good in itself, right? But then what was bad? The British revenue officers, they were very corrupt and extremely strict in collecting revenue. And they used to take away almost half of the net produce as land revenue, right? And sometimes bad monsoon mostly created the conditions of famines, which added to the misery of the peasants. So, right? So there were some limitations of this system also. Let's read limitations of the system from your book now. The Ryotwadi system became very oppressive. The money lenders began to seize. Seize means, you can say, act of taking possession of something, right? If you are not able to pay the loan, then your property is seized by the bank or something like that, right? So the money lenders, because ryots, farmers, sometimes they had to borrow money from money lenders and high rate of interest, right? So the money lenders, they began to seize the lands of their peasant debtors. It means their peasant, when peasants, they are not able to repay the loan to money lenders, so their properties, it it was seized by the money lenders. they either evicted them or reduced them to tenants, right? So tenants, a person who is using a room or flat on rent has to pay something in return for using the property, for using the room, flat, or something like that. So another major drawback of the system was that the ryot, the farmer, had to pay revenue even when his produce was partially or wholly destroyed by natural calamities such as drought or flood or famine or something like that. Now this was all about Ryotwadi system. Again, in Ryotwadi system, the farmers, they were responsible to pay revenue to English East India Company. Revenue was fixed according to the fertility of the soil. So this system was good, but actually it was not managed properly. The company officials, they were very strict in collecting the land revenue, or sometimes they are doing some malpractices also, and they were collecting more revenue from the farmers than required, right? So this was all about Ryotwadi system. Let's do now Mahalwadi system. So Mahal, here what is Mahal? Not a palace, but here Mahal means group of villages, right? So let's talk about this Mahalwadi system. So the Mahalwadi system was a modified version of the Zamindari settlement introduced in Ganga Valley, the northwest province, parts of central India and Punjab. So Mahalwadi system, you can say it was a modified version of permanent settlement. In Mahalwadi system, a settlement was made with a group of villages collectively called Mahal. As in Ryotwadi system, Ryot means a farmer, cultivator. So here in Mahalwadi system, Mahal means a group of villages, right? So land in these villages belonged to the village community, which was called Mahal, right? And which was jointly responsible for the payment of land revenue. The forest and the pastures also belong to village community. Thus, in Mahalwadi system, village-wise assessment of land revenue was done. So, not a person was responsible for paying land revenue to British, but a group, right? And in this group also, the headman of the village was the headman of from of Mahal was responsible to collect all the revenue and pay it to English East India Company. So there were also some limitations in the system. So due to high revenue demand, large areas of land began to pass into the hands of moneylenders and merchants, as they have to, again I'm saying that because the land revenue was already very high, and to pay land revenue they had to take loan from moneylenders at high rate of interest. So there were impoverishment and widespread dispossession of land among the cultivating communities in the 1830s and 1840s. And the anguish, or you can say suffering of the cultivators, the anger of the cultivators was expressed in popular uprisings in 1857, that we will be doing in the next chapters, at how peasants, how farmers, they revolted against British, why they were not satisfied. Okay, so the one thing that why farmers, they were not satisfied with the British, because of these oppressive land revenue policies. And one thing which we had not done, this is not written in your book, that this Mahalwadi system was introduced by Holt Mackenzie in 1822, right? This is also a thing which is important. So year and a person who introduced these particular systems, we should know, right? So comparative table will be completing today. You will be getting your written notes as well. So the three policies, the three settlements introduced by British for land revenue collection, we have discussed. If you have any query, feel free to message me, right? So goodbye and have a very nice day. God bless you all.